This car next to me here, I've been pushing around the shop, from shop to shop, all my life. It is the one car, my dad's, that I've never got to drive. The car has been off the road for over 50 years. 1957 Ford Thunderbird. Will it run and drive? Today's the day we find out. Let's dig in. Let's start by doing a little walk around. So as previously mentioned, what you see in front of you is a 1957 Ford Thunderbird in raven black with black interior. '57 is the last year of what they call the baby birds. And you've heard a lot about Tri-5 Chevys. Well, this is a Tri-5 Ford right here. Thunderbird started out in 1955, and it was produced by Ford to compete with the then new Corvette. 1955 through 57, they call the baby bird era. It was the last time Ford offered a two-seat Thunderbird, well, until the 2000s when they came out with that car. One of the things that makes it a 57 are these sharp tail fins on the back here. 55 and 56 had a more rounded off tail, hockey stick, whatever you want to call them on it. There's, of course, other obvious differences too, but that's probably the most distinguishable feature of a 57. This one's in okay shape. My dad tore it apart way back when. And I'm going to post the story from the one person that can tell it the best at the end of this video for anyone who is interested. Stay tuned for that. But long story short, for right now, my dad drove it home way back when, immediately tore it into pieces, and started doing body work on it to restore. Now, my dad was a bit of an old school mechanic, and his techniques he wanted to keep original to the time period, and he started doing brazing work. And from what you can see, he did a pretty decent job at it. What happened then is he got scared. The parts for these cars at one point in time were big money. And I think a fender for one of these back in the day was around $2,500 just for a new fender skin. Well, since then, parts have come down for these quite a bit. Unfortunately, so is the value of the cars. So this is as far as he got on it. Now, when my dad tore this car apart, he literally boxed and labeled every piece he took off the car. So, as a big advantage to me, this puzzle is labeled when it comes time to put it back together, which is very nice. Well, hopefully you can see through the dust that hopefully in the future here we'll be removing. The car's pretty straight. The door gaps and stuff are pretty nice. I don't think the car's ever been wrecked, to my knowledge. But as long as I can remember, this has been the condition of it. Half tore apart, ground down in a lot of areas, and an inch thick worth of dust on it. It is overdue for something to be done with this car. It is in too nice a shape to be sitting here. Let's check the interior out on this thing. As you can see, the original seat has seen some better days. It needs recovered, but it seems to be all there. Some years of wear and tear on the car. I believe this car is pretty well optioned for what you could get in 1957. As you can see, one of the first things, let's see if this still works. Well, might need a little lube, but it has a telescoping steering column to it. Car's saying 51,000 miles. If I can get the 5 in there. Probably not. You'll have to take my word for it. It's got the town and country radio. Don't believe the car came with AC. But there's the heater controls. All the dash trim is still intact. Door panels have been removed. I have those. Let's see here. By the looks of that brake pedal, and the go pedal, I think 51,000 is actually accurate. Once you guys hear the story of this car, there's more evidence that backs that. I got some see-through features in the front of the rockers here, kick panels. The floor pans, though, some of the original hubcaps for the car. With the floor pans of this car, pretty darn solid. The original boot cover still hanging on back there. Got the keys in the ignition. I'm going to borrow those in a second here to check out the trunk. All the glass except unfortunately the door window had an accident at some point. But the rest of the glass is in pretty darn good shape. It even has both these little vent windows that are just starting to get some delamination, whatever you want to call it here. But really, for the age of the car, they're not in bad shape at all. There is definitely a car left here to work with. I think there was a power seat option on these, and this doesn't appear to have that. And that's okay. That's just one less thing to work on. All right. Let's check out the trunk. I think that's the trunk key. We'll find out. Oh boy. I think that's the wiring harness to something else. I think this thing might have gotten used as a storage unit for a little while. A little hole over here in the trunk pan. I believe there is another one. Wow, the mice really had their fun with this thing too. As I was saying, there's another little one here right in the bottom of the spare tire well. Other than that, though, hey, there's a good putty knife right there. Sweet. I think it's pretty solid back here. The trunk itself seems to be in pretty good shape. Here's the original jack instructions for the car. That sticker's still in pretty good shape. Another set of valve covers my dad must have picked up. Those are pretty neat. Springs still hold the trunk up okay. The bumpers there. One of the really cool features of this car originally, the exhaust came right out the bumpers. I'm almost positive that's not hooked up anymore. But I've never been underneath this car, so we'll have to see what is left underneath of it at some point. All right. Let's get the gas door open here. Ooh, wow. All right. Well, that is straight deck stain. That smells bad. I think if we end up getting this car running, we may not be using that tank. At least not initially. Might have to send a bore scope down there with a light and see what is left the inside of that. You see a kitty cat was trying to climb up it at one point too. Probably trying to get one of the 1,200 mice that inhabited the trunk at some point. Passenger door card's removed yet again. Almost positive I have that. I said I've literally got a storage shelf in the back room, 2 or 3 storage shelves to be exact, that are just full of parts of this car. Speaking of parts for the car, there's the top of the doors right there. That would be the front of the fender. Might still be savable. We'll see. But rocker covers. The floor is still solid over here too, guys. Trans tunnel's in really good shape. Outer rockers are good. I think one of the intimidating facts of this car, 99% of the cars on the road, especially in the 1950s, you wanted to work on a fender, you just unbolt a fender, take it off, put it on a stand, do your thing, put it back on the car. There you go. Thunderbird, to my knowledge, this body is all one piece on this car. As what I mean is, aside from the doors are removable, but the fenders, the rockers, the rear quarter panels, trunk, along to the other side, it is all one solid shell. So you can't just take a fender off. do some body work, put it back on. You're working on the whole car, so unless you remove the whole body, yeah, you get what I'm trying to say here. So, some more of my dad's body work he did on the car. And I think where he got with it, he did a good walk around, saw the spots that he knew were bad, and started taking a grinder to them, cleaning them up, seeing how bad they actually were underneath. Then he started his repair process, and that's about as far as he got. Here's a random dent right on the nose, and I don't know if it's related or not, but here's another one on the hood. Might be same incident, might not be. That adds a little character to it. I have the headlight buckets and the tail light buckets and everything for the car. But that's not where we're going today. Let's pop the hood on this thing next. As you can see, the hood's still in pretty good shape too. I don't see any signs of rust or rot on that. So that's good. All right, guys. Let's see what we're working with here. All right, so in 1957, Ford gave you 4 different powertrain options in the Thunderbird. Your base model was your C code, which gave you a 292 Y block with a 2-barrel carb. Your next power option up was a D code, which bumped it up to a 312 cubic inch Y block with a 4-barrel. Next up would be an E code, which gave you 2 4-barrels on top of a 312. And your top of the line hot rod 57 Thunderbird was your F code, which gave you a single 4-barrel, but gave you a supercharger. We'll find out here in a minute what this is. But back to being a fairly well-optioned car. I originally thought it was a manual brake car till I got to looking around, chasing lines. Here's your brake booster. This car has power brakes and power steering as well. So like I said, it's a pretty well-optioned car. Let's get this air cleaner off here. We have a 4-barrel carburetor, which I will include a picture of the firewall tag. Already ran the numbers. This is a D code 312 with the original Holley 4-barrel carburetor on it. So, not the top of the line hot rod, but a little better in the base model. So that's pretty neat. I think everything on this car is absolutely original. Got the little doohickey wastegate things on the exhaust manifolds. These little stabilizer link looking things that are actually the motor mounts. That radiator hose definitely looks original. It's definitely seen better days. The belts are still there. That air cleaner lid is definitely original. There is the original fuel pump, which I've been pricing parts on these cars. That little bugger right there is expensive, and what makes it special is those two vacuum ports coming up off the top of it there. Those run to, one for sure I know is the wipers are vacuum operated on the car, and there's some other features that operates as well, but that's also the vacuum pump for some of your accessories. So, yeah. That hose has definitely seen better days if this thing is going to start up. The lower one doesn't look much better. I've already been a little proactive and got some nothing but the best from China parts on order for the car. So one of those that'll be better than what's on it. We'll keep our fingers crossed and see how well they work. We're going to try to keep it traditional here, guys, and work with what we have already, though, and try not to use any newer parts or as few as possible. Let's see if what is here already will work for now. Now, given this isn't another car I'm going to flip, send down the road, it'll eventually get all those new parts, especially when it comes to brakes and stuff like that. Like I said, this car has been sitting for over 50 years, and it needs that stuff, and the car means a lot to me, so it's worth putting the work into. So I think where we're going to start, let's see if the motor's free or not. I'm going to put a ratchet on that crank, see if we can get it to rotate. At least spin one full revolution here, and that'll give us a good baseline where we need to go next on it. All right, guys, let's see if this thing's freed up or not. It's been sitting a long time. Oh, there we go. There's our answer. Perfect. Feels nice and smooth. No rough spots in it. That's what we want to see. Okay, next step. Let us check the oil, make sure there's at least some oil in this thing. If we put a battery in this thing and start cranking on it, without any oil in it, we might just start causing more problems than what we originally had. So let's give that a check. There is oil in it. It's about as black as night, as expected. But a lot of gas. It is almost on the full mark, though. So I would say we are safe to at least crank it over. Maybe get it to bark off if it'll do that or not on what's in there. I do have an oil change for it, and that'll come down the road once we get it fired up. So I think it's about time I go find a battery and see if the starter's going to do starter things or not. It's my universal shop battery that seems to fit 90% of the junk I have around here. So that's pretty good. I just stole it out of the Grand Prix, actually. And before that, it came out of the Fairlane. So let's put it in here and see what's going to catch fire first. I'm going to clean those terminals up, just kind of give us a fighting chance, eliminate one issue already. Ooh, that one's rough. All right, that's about as good as that one's going to get. Maybe. We'll see. That one's going to need tightened up. But let's sit back here for a second, make sure we don't have any smoke shows going on from anywhere. Smell for stuff. Look for smoke. Don't see anything yet up here, which is a good sign. Let's check out inside the car real quick. Nothing. Good. Okay. I'm going to go get a wrench, tighten up that negative. I think the positive is going to be tight enough, at least for what we're doing here. And we'll go from there. Okay. Seem to be tight enough. Leave that wrench close by just in case we have an issue of some sort. Let's hit the key and see if the starter is going to do anything or not. Then we can go from there. All right, we're in neutral. It's an automatic, so we got lights on in the dash. We got power. Let's see what happens. All right, it's going to crank. Awesome. Well, that battery sounds a little low on the voltages. Maybe next step I will get a battery charger out, put on that. And let's check for spark next. See if we got that or not. That'll be the next piece of the puzzle. We'll go from there. I'll be back in a minute. All right, guys, I got the battery charger hooked up and I plugged in one of these inline spark testers that I got from Harbor Freight. We're gonna see if we have spark or not next. So I'm gonna go hit the key. You guys are gonna have to let me know if you see any light coming from that or not. And that'll tell us what we need to do next. So keep an eye on that. Let's check for spark. Well, we had spark. That's really good. I was banking on the fact we were going to have to pop distributor caps, sand points, replace points, whatever you want to say. Now we can kind of skip over that. And I think the next step, the next piece of the puzzle here is let's dump some gas down that carburetor and see if this thing's going to bark off or not. We have crankage. We have spark. Next step is to get some fuel to it. And let's see what happens here. So give me a second here to get set up for that. And we'll see what happens. All right, guys, here's the exciting part. Got some 87 octane here. Let's give this carburetor a drink, hit the key, and see if this thing's going to bark off for the first time in who knows how many years. All right, I think my battery's still trying to give up here. Let's put it in meltdown mode and go for broke. I think I did hear it fire off once. I just don't think it's getting the spark it needs to do the thing, or the cranking revolutions, whatever you want to say. Let's try that again. Oh boy. There we go. We got power now. All right, let's try that one more time. Third time's a charm. It fired. That's awesome. First time in a long time this car's been started. Okay, next step, let us fill the bowls and see if we can get this thing to run for 10 seconds or so, and then go from there. I don't think our accelerator pump's working. That's no surprise there. Like I said, I went ahead and ordered a carb kit for this thing. Let's just see what happens here real quick. We have a massive leak out of the base plate, or out of one of the bowls, so that might end this whole thing here rather quickly. But let's give this a shot real quick. Haha, that was it. We have a bad fuel leak, but I want to do that one more time and hopefully not burn the car down. We got a runner. That's exciting. I obviously have some carburetor work to do. I'm going to try to tighten a couple screws first and see if that fixes the issue. Also, I want to get this fuel system disconnected to it for a couple different reasons. And see if we can patch a few things up for now. Like I said, I did order a rebuild kit for this. I have that here. We might just go ahead and jump to doing that. But let's see what else we can assess here. Well, as you can see, guys, I have the carburetor tore down, and I've already done a little scraping in that bowl area, but as you can see, it's been sitting for a long, long time. Now, the question that's yet to be answered, this Holly list number 1273-1, the homework I've done already. Rebuild kit was available, but these brass floats, if there is any pinholes in them at all, I guess you cannot find these new anyways. There was some hints of some people that had some new old stock ones. If someone's in need, I hate to see the price on those due to supply and demand. What I might be looking at there, but I need to dip these in some fluid and see if they still do the float thing or not. If they do not, that might just shut us down right there. Now, a back barrel here, there was cause for concern. I took it off. I don't know if it caught it in the video or not, but this float was held up. Somebody had already put this piece of fuel line in here to hold the float up, holding the needle and seat up, so there would be no gasoline coming in the back barrels of this unit. Therefore, the back butterflies for the 4-barrel were froze up as well. So I saw that and I thought right away, well, that might mean that this might be compromised already. But I'm going to dip them in some fluid here before we go any further on this and see where we're at with these things, because these are bad. I'm going to have to figure out something else as far as a carburetor for this. So it would be nice to reuse this one, But it's all dependent on that. So that's our next step here. Well, I don't hear anything out of that though, so it's promising. Let's check the other one. Now, this is the one that was held up with the fuel line, so yeah. Look for some air bubbles here coming out. I don't see any. It's wanting to float. Is it possible that someone just put that piece of fuel hose in there because the needle and seat was bad and this was their quick fix? I don't know. It's wanting to float. Leave it submerged here for a little while longer. I don't hear anything out of that one either, which is great. Does that mean 100% it doesn't have a pinhole in it somewhere? No, it does not. What it does mean, though, is we might have a fighting chance on this. All right, guys, so given what I found out, I think the best thing to do is I took the bowls in the mid plates and I'm gonna put them in here and let them soak for a while. The main base of the carburetor would not fit in here, so next best option, so I'm gonna let them soak in the parts washer for a while. I let them sit in there for a couple days, break all that junk loose that's been on there for many years now. And the back butterfly assembly on the 4-barrel plate was still a little froze up. Hopefully this will break it up a little bit and come back and revisit that and see if we made any progress there or not. Here's the thing, guys, if we were in somebody's yard trying to make it home, something like that, we could slap this thing back together and cross our fingers and toes and say our prayers, and we would probably make it. Can and a half of brake clean everything up, slap it back on there. It'd probably work just fine. Where I'm at, why?
why not take our time, let things soak, get them pulled out, clean them more thoroughly, apply our rebuild kit, say our prayer with these floats, and put them back in. Comes a point in time I could shortcut it and faster results. Be doing a video on driving this thing around today, but yeah, I'm not seeing the point in that. I think I'm just gonna let this sit for a couple days, think about what it's done, and get stuff, maybe get a better clean on it, especially since some of this stuff is obsolete anymore. So I think that's going to be the game plan here. One more thing I'd like to do before I wrap it up. I want to see if that fuel pump works or not. So I think I'm going to disconnect some lines, see if we can rig up a temporary fuel source to it somehow, and see where I'm at with the fuel pump, because if we get the carburetor back on there, and that's working okay, that's not going to do us a dang bit of good unless we can get fuel to it. So this would give me an opportunity to order some parts if need be and go from there. So let me get set up on that and I'll be back with you. Okay, so picture, there we go. Got a fuel hose hooked straight to the pump. Focus, come on. Not gonna do it, are we? Come on now. There we go, kinda sorta. Okay, fuel hose hooked in the fuel pump. Into the old reserve tank here. Wow, there's a hose connecting that pump to, there's a metal line. Yeah, right there. I loosened the clamp and went to move that hose off the barb fitting on the fuel pump, and I think it was at the same time it snapped off of both ends, because this is so hard and brittle and original. So that would have been a piece I would have had to replace anyways. And if I'm going to attempt to keep this original, this goes into the barb fitting on the fuel pump, but this end is threaded. It's got a coupler. If I could just see down here. Yeah, it's got a coupler. First day running a camera, sorry guys. Let's see here. You happy there? Maybe. It's got a coupler on that end that threads into the metal fuel line that I'm assuming goes back to the gas tank. So I'm gonna have to dial up some of these Thunderbird specialty places to see if that's a part I can get, or if I'm just gonna have to do the quick fix thing and just clamp it onto that hose and do away with that fitting. I also was trying to be proactive and ordered a whole new set of brake hoses for this thing. So I ordered the two for the front wheel cylinders and also the one for the back for the axle hose back there. What I didn't take into consideration is here is another rubber hose coming off of Mr. Brake Booster here that goes down to, there's a junction block down there where the brake switch and everything is. So might have to look into getting that too, but we're a few steps away from worrying about that right now. Excuse me. Back to where we were. I've got hose into reserve tank here, plumbed into the fuel pump. Let's see if it'll build up enough pressure to bring fuel out of there into the pump, and also out of the pump into this little sight bowl here, and out of that line in a perfect world, or if I'm going to have to spend big money on a specialty fuel pump here. So let's try that next and see what we got. All right, so I'm gonna start cranking it over. Hopefully we start seeing some fuel fill up that bowl here in a perfect world where I don't spend big money on fuel pumps. Yeah. Okay, here we go. Or we're gonna take our light out with the fan. Let's try that. All right, nothing yet. Let me see if I can maybe prime this line somehow and give that a shot. Okay. Now I'll just hold this up. Try that again. Nothing so far. I can put my ear up to the hose and it is attempting to do something, so I think I'm gonna try to prime it with some more. All right, so I filled the hose up and I think it must have gravity fed itself past the fuel pump into that float bowl. So, yeah, I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but it's full now. Let's just hit the key and see what happens. it must be doing something. It's shooting fuel out of the line that goes in the carburetor there, so that's awesome. We might be okay on a fuel pump. Perfect. Okay. Well, that tells me what I need to know there. All right, guys, so that was kind of a multi-purpose test right there. Not only did we find out that the fuel pump's working, but we just flushed some fresh gas through the system, which means hopefully if there was any junk in that system, we won't pump it into our brand new carburetor rebuilt once we get it back in there and be back at square one with that. That way we can kind of start with a clean slate, I guess you'd say. So we are definitely making headway here. Once we get that carburetor rebuilt, put back on, fingers crossed that the floats are good. We know we can get fuel to it now, at least out of the gas tank. That means that can get rigged somewhere in here if that one that smells like deck stain is no good. Oh, forgot to turn the key off. So there's no oil pressure light as I was cranking the key there, though. There's no oil pressure gauge, is what I'm attempting to say. But there is an oil pressure light, and as I was cranking the key over, that light did go off, telling me that it is pumping oil. So we have successfully re-lubricated the engine again, which is good. One less thing to worry about once we get the carburetor put on it for next time. I feel a little better about just hitting the key. So hopefully we got some oil to the top end, start lubricating everything it needs to lubricate there, valves, rockers, whatnot. And that's about where we're at. So at this point, I'm gonna walk away for a day or two, let some stuff get clean with the world, and we'll come back and hit this again.
And we're back on the T-Bird. Came down here the other night to do some recording and found out my audio equipment was on vacation for the night. Went home to review my footage and dead silence. Kind of ticked me off, but it happens. So let's do a quick update of where we're at on the car. Took a night and rebuilt the carburetor. That was fun. I think I got it back together. All the bolts that came out went back in, so that's a plus. Checked the floats, and I think they're okay. Submerged them under gas, I think. Yeah, gas for a minute or so. Brought them up out, did the shake test on them. I didn't hear anything in there. So put them back in the carburetor. Hopefully they're good. We'll find out. The choke was stuck really bad. Had to use a little heat motivation to get that freed up. I think I damaged it. I'm not sure it's working at all, but we don't need a choke. We can manually choke it. The choke tube broke when I took it out. Threadings kind of fell apart, so we might have to get creative with that repair. I guess it's a common issue with these heat riser choke things, especially considering the car's 60 years old. So I have to work around that. Oh, and the back 4-barrel butterflies were froze up really bad on it. So I let those soak in some fluid for a week or so, and they freed up a little bit, worked them back and forth probably 1,000 times. They're more free than they were. I don't know if they're working 100% well or not, but that's one option this car didn't have, was cruise control, so maybe I just added that. I don't know, we'll see. But brought some backup. My buddy Chris came down, said he was bored tonight. I said, well, if you want a challenge, I got one for you. Let's see if we can get this thing running. So we're back on it. Let's see what we can make happen. Yeah, it should be good, right? You got any in it? Oh, look at that. I'll be. Okay. Well, at least it's got some in there. But yeah, that's I have some here actually, because
enough to replace it.
maybe, I don't know. I usually keep a good 5 gallons in the trunk of the Fairlane because it leaks that out once per season. So
You can buy it at Orchid.
I might see if they have a 55-gallon drum of it, especially if this one leaks as good as the other car.
Just down the road then.
Right, yeah, that place, yeah, absolutely. All right, so we got a tune-up done. Plugs, wire cap, rotor. Just confirmed the firing order on it. Everything should be good there. We know we got spark. We got a backfire issue going on. Usually that is one of two things. Either have the timing way too far advanced, or have a stuck intake valve. Now, prior to rebuilding the carburetor, didn't have this issue, so I'm thinking maybe it has something to do with that. We need to get that figured out first. But first, let's do the fun thing and recreate the issue. So just went and got some gas, got my fuel line disconnected from the carburetor. Let's see if the fuel pump wants to work tonight or not, and then we'll go from there. Nothing yet. It's filling it. It's priming the bowl, isn't it? Now it's going down. Nothing yet. Maybe, I I think I primed the line last time. You want to see if there's some pressure coming out? Ready? Nothing?
It's holding,
Okay.
and then if I let off, it starts.
Let me prime the line. I think that's what I did last time. Had some drainage back out the hose, so that's a good sign. She filling up. Whoop. All right. See if we can sneak it back in the tank real quick and hit the key at the same time. Or not. This is getting sloppy. All right, there we go. There we go. All right, fuel pump's working. Let's get the carburetor hooked back up. It's a little warmer in here tonight, so hopefully we got a fighting chance. Okay. We go ahead and fill the bowl, see what happens. Any leaking going on? Nothing.
There, it's squirting.
All right, accelerator pump's working. Get your beards back, boys. Let's see what happens. All right, it fired. It's the most promising sound it's made yet. All right, it's stuck on cruise control, but it did run. So maybe the butterflies are open. I said the back barrels were a little sticky, but I don't think I hit it far enough to open them up, or I shouldn't have anyways. They closed?
I got it closed now.
Okay. All right, well, it got smoky in here. Let's try that again. Guys, it is smoky in here. You killed it. That's fine. That's probably long enough anyways. Now it'd be about the time. Let's see if we can confirm some coolant in the radiator. If there is any.
Oh, got hoses.
Yeah, it's, see it over here? I actually ordered one for it, but good old Rock Auto, they sent the wrong one.
I don't see.
So it's looking bone dry. So it's probably a good time to turn that thing off. Anyways, the next step here would be, let's put some coolant in it. Considering we're still in January, usually I'd take the cheap approach and just put water in it to check for the inevitable leaks, but it's going to get cold here soon again, so I think I will opt to spend the money and put a 50-50 mix in. So let's do that next. Get this thing fired up and let it continue coming back around. Let old gaskets and seals heat up and hopefully reseal again. And we'll check for leaks and go from there. So we got some coolant in this thing. I put some power steering fluid in it too. Let's start it back up, see how easy it's going to start back up, and try to get a heat cycle on it. Wow, that's cool. I think it is about open headers though. There can't be much exhaust on that car. The oil light off, generator lights on. Then I'll get the multimeter out and see if this thing's charging or not. Thank you, Chris.
You set it right above the car.
That's probably not the best idea, was it? No. Weeks. .68. If it's doing anything at all, it's doing very little, but at least we're still at 12. That cam on that thing is probably supported at high idle. Is it floating? Yeah. Got just a little mess to it, doesn't it? Maybe not. Oh, let's see what we got leaking.
A little puddle of something under there. Yeah, a little bit of a coolant leak. Yes, sir, Irish. It's that toe cam, isn't it? I didn't adjust anything. That's the way it was. Alright. There's a smaller one next to you. That gas leak. So she's running good. You can see down there the fuel pump. There we go. It's got a bit of a leak to it. Not super concerned about that right now. Might hurt our fuel mileage going down the road a little bit, but I think we're a few steps away from that. Other than that radiator hose we already knew about. One I got in is totally not right for the car at all. So I have to get back online and find the right one. It's got a slow leak for now, but really I'm not too concerned about that either. It's got coolant in it. The car is running good. We're working on doing some adjustments to the carburetor. Try to get her idled down a little bit. And let it continue warming up, get a good heat cycle on it. I think the last time I heard this car run was probably 30 years ago. So that's pretty incredible. We're going to move on to brake work on this car, and as you can see, we pulled the old master cylinder off, and there was no saving that. We got a pudding mixture in there, and as you can see, the seals were blown out in the back as well. It was leaking out of the back. Pedal went straight to the floor, of course. So time for some new parts. All right, let's get this master cylinder hooked back up here.
That tray goes under the bottom bolt.
Okay. Crawl inside the car next, make sure that piston went where it needed to go.
Unfortunately.
I didn't check the rest of the package, but boy, the way that box was, it probably fell out if it did. Typically, the older washers
Pull the rubber boot out of the end
Oh,
of it.
that might help, huh?
Stuck it in there so it didn't leak.
Appreciate you. Let's see if we got a pedal now.
That looks a lot better than what it was.
Yeah. Whoa. What happened? Leaking somewhere?
Yeah, shot right through on the ground right here.
Alright, so we got a leak up there. Think it's coming from that bolt or
Underneath.
underneath somewhere?
Brake line.
Put a little gas in this.
What are we putting gas in?
The heater.
Oh, sweet. Great idea. Get the butt crack cam on there.
No, but I got Mark.
You got Mark?
Yeah.
What was he doing?
I just make sure you edit the video.
Okay.
It's pretty solid.
Yeah. Yep, I think we'll be alright. Not worried about the weight.
Yeah, she's pretty balanced.
Alright, send her up.
Watch the hood.
Maybe we should put that down. Real quick. It gets to a certain height, and it's the pucker method, I call it. The old behind starts to pucker a little more, you know what I mean? Happy with that one, happy with that one. Already underneath the car, so hopefully I'm happy with all of them. Yeah, we're good, okay.
You say when?
Moving on up.
Hey, you got a tail on the ground.
Yeah, it's dragon tail. Should work. And bring her down very slowly. As in, yeah, let me do it. This thing, if she drops quick, I usually just precision control it. Yeah, there you go. Is she set on all
Yeah,
that?
she don't know.
First look underneath. I've never seen the underneath this car myself, so who knows what we're in for. That muffler's in sweet shape. I think the rest of it's blown on the ground over there somewhere. There's the 9-inch. I'm not seeing any issues with the frame or anything so far. How's the floor pans look? They look good from up above. Wow. Drop down solid. I don't see any issues with the trunk pan other than a little vent hole for the spare tire. That's no big deal.
Drain.
The drain, yeah, that's it. That's factory option. Man, I think we got a good solid car here to work with. Well, considering it's been inside most of its life, that's why. All right, well, that's good news. You were right about that motor mount. So we have a center mount in the front, 2 stabilizers on the side, and then a transmission mount. That's loose. Oh. Well, that's a good thing we didn't do any burnouts in it yet. Okay. I guess we'll tighten that up. Perfect. Okay. Where's our...
Oh, done.
Varnish this.
Let's see what this tank looks like. Oh man, it smells.
Where's the float?
Oh, we have no floats. Well, that might be a problem.
Oh, that stinks.
Yeah, that smells bad.
You want to stain your deck?
No kidding. Wow. There's still some fluid in there. I'm sure that stuff's great.
Doesn't your fence need staining this year?
It does.
There you go.
Yeah.
I think it's starting to go back to oil.
It's ready to go back in the ground, I guess. That's bad. Oh man. That's as orange as Donald Trump.
Go put this in your lawnmower. Briggs and Stratton will run on it.
No kidding. All of a sudden I have to pee.
Them suckers will run on anything.
Something might have ran on it. I think it'll be some good weed killer. Might have been part of the float. Ooh, look at that color.
I think you should just dump it on the burn pile and be done with it.
Yeah, I might just do that.
The bucket and the whole.
Yeah, the whole bucket, yeah.
Well, I think we're going to call this a video, guys. Will it want run and drive? Yeah, it will. Could I have put it in gear, taken it out, shot it down the road real quick? I could have. That could have happened. I chose not to. We got that master cylinder hooked up on the car. Had a good pedal for 5 seconds, as you can see in the video, and the pedal went to the floor again. It blew a brake line heading to the rear. So that tells me we could have pinched that line off. Bled the fronts. Might have worked. That's kind of telling me, though, that the brake lines probably need replaced on the car. This thing was an old beater or something like that, I probably could have just done that, risked it, take it down the road, and done the thing. I think the right thing to do, however, is to put some new brake lines on it, get the new wheel cylinders on it. We took the drums off. The shoes are original to the car, I'm almost positive. They're crumbling, they're in bad shape. They're worn down too. So I'm gonna get some parts on order. Perhaps we'll make this a end of part one of 2 video. Will it run and drive? And kind of do things the right way on this one. Drop the fuel tank on it as well, as you guys saw, and it's in bad shape. Should probably get a proper fuel system hooked up to the car too. While we're up there, I've got it in the air, I've got it apart. Why not? So I think that's my plan. I'm gonna need a week or 2, get some parts on order, and of course do the work, videotape it, make it entertaining for you guys. I really appreciate you guys tuning in, though. Hopefully you liked it. If you did, maybe you consider subscribing to the channel. At least hit that like button for me. Remember to hit the bell too. That'll give you notifications when I post updates on this car. It's going to be the project from here on out for a little while, until I get it to at least to a point I can drive it, move it around the garage, maybe take it down the road real quick, and see where else we're going to go on the adventure with it. But as always, I appreciate you guys tuning in, and we will catch you on the next one. Thanks.